Psalm 127, it says, a song of ascents of Solomon. Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. May the Lord add his blessing to this reading and hearing of his holy word. Let us pray. Dear God, I pray now with the words of my mouth, the meditation of our hearts, to be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Right, so it's Labor Day weekend, right? Yeah, for many of you are thinking, why do you like Labor Day weekend? Free day off work for many of you, right? Free day off work. You ever wonder why we get a free day off work on Labor Day? When I was little, I used to ask my parents, why is it called Labor Day? And they were funny. They would say, that's the day when everyone goes into labor. And it's like, as a 5-year-old kid, that's irritating. I don't want to answer. But I would look around, and my sister's birthday was on September 4th. And I had a cousin who had birthday September 6th. I had cousins who had birthday September 2nd. Like, maybe that is the day people go into labor, because everyone's birthday falls on Labor Day. That's not what Labor Day is about. I went on the U.S. Department of Labor's website. This is what they say Labor Day is. Labor Day, the first Monday in September, is a creation of the labor movement and is dedicated to the social and economic achievements of American workers. It constitutes a yearly national tribute to the contributions workers have made to the strength, prosperity, and well-being of our country. You see, we have Labor Day to celebrate all the work we do on all the other days and what we accomplish on those days. It's a good idea. It's good to take that time. It's good to celebrate the work that we do. But it's good to have that day not just to celebrate, to actually take a look at the work we are doing. Why are we doing the work? And what is the purpose? You see, that seems to be at least one of Solomon's emphases as he writes Psalm 127. Many of you know Solomon. He is the third king of Israel, the son of David. And during his reign, at least part of his reign, he was known as the wisest man on earth. So he's wise. Yeah, Solomon comes and he starts to write Psalm 127, and he starts talking about labor. He assumes that people are out there working because he talks about the builders being laborers. And if you're a laborer, you're laboring at something. So Solomon's saying, hey, we're doing work. But he says the important thing we need to look at is the purpose of our work and what makes that work successful. That's what Solomon's looking at as he starts Psalm 127. And he starts right into it. He starts talking about the builders. You look at verse 1, and he says, unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain. He's saying, you can go build a house. And let me tell you, when it comes to building a house, if you need help, you don't ask me. I can't help you. But some of you out there might be good at building things and building houses, and you might do it really well. You might, be able to be on one of those shows. I mean, if you know how to build a house, what do you do? Lay a foundation, you build the footers, walls, and you add floors and ceilings and windows and roofs, I don't know. And you build a house, and it's really good, but guess what? If God's not behind that house standing up, it's going to fall. That's what Solomon says. Because he says, unless God builds it, the laborers labor in vain. He says it's in vain. You know what that word means? Because Solomon's going to use it several times in the course of these 2 verses. It means it's empty. It's nothing. Your work means nothing unless God builds it. And he moves on. He starts talking about watchmen. And he says, unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain. Again, he's talking about these watchmen. What's he talking about? In Solomon's day, most of the cities were built often on top of hills. And they would build cities with walls around them so that someone could stand on the top of that wall and look out over the plain and see if anyone was coming to attack or anyone dangerous was out there. And that's what the watchmen did. But guess what? Unless God is behind protecting that city, unless God is working at that, those watchmen, they can work as hard as humanly possible watching, and it's still going to be in vain. It's going to be nothing. See, whatever we set our hearts to do is in vain. It means nothing. It's empty. Unless God is behind it. Unless God is securing it, right? Isn't that what we learn? When I hear this, I think of the Tower of Babel. You all are wondering what these nice colorful things were up here for. Tower of Babel, it's a biblical, historical thing. It's recorded in Genesis chapter 11. And what happens with the Tower of Babel is the people get together and they say, oh, let's build a great You know why they do it? They say, let's build it so that people know us. Hell, we will be renowned. Why are they building the tower? For their own glory. They want to become little gods. And God looks down and says, if they've done this by themselves, I can't be behind this. They're not gods. So what's God do? He comes down and he confuses them. He confuses their language. And all these people who were working together before, they start speaking different languages and no one can understand anything. Guess what? That tower never got finished because God wasn't behind it. The people were building glory for themselves, and God said, You know, so often we're the same way. We are laboring in vain because we're out there building our own towers of Babel, right? We're building towers to ourselves to make us look great. What are we building? Well, we build some noble things, don't we? If you're young, you're just married, you're getting married, maybe you're starting to build your household. You want to establish your household, and that's what you're doing. And that's kind of what Solomon gets into later in Psalm 127. But, you know, maybe you're a little bit older, you have kids, and you're a little bit established. Now you're just looking to raise your family. That's what you're working on. You're raising your family and you want to do it right. Some of you, you're a bit past that. And so now you're just looking to build and work toward your retirement so that you have a secure retirement. And yet you can be able to do the things that you need to do once you retire. You know, you want to get the house paid off, it's paid off, you want to save some things. That's what you're building. Some of you are beyond that. And now you're just building your legacy. You're working on your legacy. What will be left behind when you go forth from this place? Those are all things that we can say are noble, things we work on, things we build. There are things, let's face it, there are things we build in our life that just, they're not noble. Well, yeah, we work on them anyway. We labor so hard. I think of someone's career. You know, a career can be an important thing to build because it's how you provide for your family and do other things. But sometimes people make their career, and that's the ultimate goal. It's not those other things. I need to have a career. I need to get on top. I need to be the boss, right? And that's what people's dreams are. That's what their work is for. Ultimately, we see people having that dream, that work. It's so they can gain status, right? We want to be important. We want to be known. We want to have people looking at us and saying, hey, they're great. Remember the Tower of Babel? You know, what else do? We work hard, and the purpose of our work is to get to a point where we can have an excessive lifestyle. We can have it all, right? We can get all the glory and glitter, and it's all ours, and people recognize us for it. But guess what? Whatever we decide to build is useless unless God is behind it, unless God is there building it. It's in vain. If God's not behind your work, if the things we set our minds to are not in God's purpose, then they are in vain. You see, Solomon goes on to say, you know what, you rise up early, you stay up late working hard, you exhaust yourselves. And this is something we do in American society, isn't it? We work hard to exhaust ourselves, all for the wrong reasons most of the time. How tired are Americans because we're rising early and staying up late? A study released by the Centers for Disease Control in 2008 indicated that adults are not getting enough rest each night. And all the adults here said, well, duh. Because it's true. 70% said they have not gotten enough rest or sleep every day for the past month. So that means for 30 days straight, they didn't get enough sleep. 13% said they lacked enough sleep every day. Now, a similar study was conducted in 1985. In 1985, 20% said they get 6 hours or less sleep each night. By the time 2008 rolls around, that had jumped to 30%. 3 out of 10 people you see get less than 6 hours of sleep every night. We're tired. We're exhausting ourselves. And so often it's for the wrong reasons. Because we're out there trying to build our own towers, our own glory. And it's in vain. It's empty. It means nothing. And it starts carrying over into our society. When we start building things that mean nothing, we're going a different way that God's going. We're doing our own thing. It impacts our society, impacts our communities, our families. Look at the state of our nation. You know, have you heard that people all over the world are saying America is no longer great? Can you believe it? People all over it used to be great, but America's no longer great. You know, we say, well, what's going on? How did we get great? We have the testimony of generations that come before us, and they say, we didn't take anything for granted growing up. Well, we worked hard to get what we got. It was by our hard work we made this country great. It was hard work. That's what they say. And that's kind of what led to Labor Day, what we celebrate this weekend. I told you what it is. But how did it get here? Well, some records say that it was started by Peter J. McGuire. He was the first to mention a day of honor. And this is why. To honor those who from rude nature have delved and carved all the grandeur we behold. Labor Day is about looking at the hard work people have done to make this country great. That's what Labor Day was. And so we have the testimony of the generations before us saying, yeah, by hard work, we built this country and made it great. And you know what? They're right. They're half right. And because there's another aspect to it. They worked hard, and that was needed. But at the same time they were working hard, what were they doing? They were godly people. They were people, however you see it in the context of history, they were people who followed God and sought after God. And that overflows into what work we are going to do and how we do our work and how well we are going to work. And that's it. You seek God, you're not looking for work that just satisfies you or helps you get ahead in all the wrong things, are you? But you seek God and His purpose. You're seeking, what is God doing? How can I step into it and allow Him to work through me to do what He's doing? That's what happened. The result was that God was building with those Americans generations ago. They were building what God was building. And that's what made things great. That's why America became great, because godly people were working hard to build us toward what God was building. And that's one of the reasons I think things are falling apart here in the United States. Because, well, fewer and fewer people are thinking America's not great because, well, we don't like work, do we? No, we do work. But it's always with a selfish reason, isn't it? A lot of times. How do I get ahead? How can I make my life more easy and more comfortable? How can I have more leisure? That's really what we're after, isn't it? We're not after hard work. We're after leisure. You know, I think the box office totals over the years show this to be accurate, that we are looking more and more for leisure, not hard work. In 2001, the domestic box office total for people going to see movies was $8.1 billion. That's a huge number to get your mind around just to begin with. But 10 years later, 2011, it had jumped to $10.2 billion. That's a difference of over $2 billion in 10 years. We're seeking leisure, aren't we? Instead of work. And when we do work, it's rarely with a mind for what God is building, is it? What's God building? Well, so many of us don't think of that anymore. 70% of the people in the United States claim no relationship to Jesus Christ. 7 out of 10 people that you know have just no idea who Jesus is. He's got no place in their life. You know what that means? It means we're not a Christian nation. We kind of think we are, but we're not. It means people out there, they're not following God as much as we think they are. When we don't follow God, guess what we're not doing? We are not seeking to build what God is building. And what happens? It becomes all in vain. And then we start getting into discussions, well, if we can just get the right political party, or we get these right government programs in place, government will fix our country and make it great again. And that's all in vain. Because our country's not building what God's building. That's what's going on. America stops being great when we stop building, we start working at what God is working at. And some people say, we can just get this politician in office. Oh, it's election year, don't you love it? But really, if we just get this politician in, if we just pass this legislation, we just get this program, it's all in vain, it's all empty, it's all nothing. The work of our government will be in vain so long as the people in our government are not building what God is building. Our nation will not be great so long as the people in our nation are not on God's agenda. That's the truth. We see the secret is in the people. It's in us. The people need to change. They are working at what God is working at. If we want to change the general American population, it needs to start somewhere. It needs to start with us followers of Jesus Christ. Because let's face it, too often we're there just following after our own work too, aren't we? How can we have people following us if we're following our own work and God's over here doing this? We need to stop as believers in Jesus Christ and ask ourselves, what are we building? What are we working for? What are we working for? Are we pursuing God's agenda? Or is our work in vain? That's what we need to ask. Discover what God is doing. That's what we need to look at. What is God's work? And then look for ways to join Him in the work that He might do through us. Stop deciding for ourselves what the important work is going to be. Look at what God is doing. Stop making it about ourselves. You know, too often people go to God and we say, God, what's my purpose in life? When we say, God, what's my purpose in life? Who's the center of that statement? We are. Instead of me to say, God, what is your purpose? That makes God first. We find out what God's doing and we just join Him in it. We do God's work. You know, when you are doing what God is doing, when you're working at what God is working at, your labor is never in vain. It's never empty. We need to be out there joyfully joining God in the work, forsaking the things that work. Forget what the world tells us should be important. Well, this is what you should be building, right? This is what you should be working at. No, go after what God says to work for. Be eager to pursue what God is doing and do it with excellence. You know what will happen when that happens? When we are like that, doing that, we become contagious. You know, people start looking at us and say, hey, you know what? You're weird. People have said that my whole life, but they say, you're weird. What are you doing? You know, you're not chasing after these things. You're working toward something completely different. Why? You know what that means? People are asking you, stop and talk about what makes you different. They're asking you to stop and talk about what God has done in your life. They're asking you to stop and tell them about Jesus Christ. And tell them, this is what God's done in my life, and this is why I do this. People ask you to talk about Jesus Christ. And you tell them. And now what they do with that, that's between them and the Holy Spirit. But you know what? Some of them, they're going to want what we have. They're going to want Jesus Christ. And when they follow after Jesus, we become their model. They see how we're working toward the things of God. And that's the direction they need to go. Guess what? They start working toward the things of God. And guess what starts happening? People start saying to them, well, why are you different? And they get to tell people about Jesus Christ. You see, this work, when we work toward the things of God little by little, the power of God changes us, and it changes our culture. All those around who follow Jesus Christ, that's the work of God, and that work will never be empty. It will never be meaningless. It will never be in vain. Now, I want you to picture an old sailing ship on the ocean, and the sailing ship, it has just been through a really difficult storm. And so the storm's passed, but the waves are still high, and the wind's still blowing. And you know, during the course of the storm, everything just fell apart. So all the sailors on board, they're just running around, doing whatever they can do to stay safe and to stay on this ship. But meanwhile, the captain's at the front of the ship, and he's saying, we need to go this way. We need to get this ship going this way. Now, the ship is pointed that way, but the wind's blowing it that way, and the waves are taking it that way, and everyone's just running around doing their own thing. One sailor sees the captain saying, we need to go this way. And he goes below to the rowing deck, and he just grabs one of these big oars that 4 or 5 people usually take, and he just starts rowing. Because he's following the captain. And then another person comes to him and says, what are you doing? He says, fine, Captain, I'm doing what the captain's telling us to do. And he sits down and helps him. And 2 or 3 more people come through and they say, hey, what are you doing? And they start joining. So pretty soon, the whole deck is filled, every post, filled with people at those oars, straining against the water to get that boat going in the right direction. The boat starts moving, and the captain takes it and finds a little inlet at a little island where they are safe, where they are secure. See, when the people started following their leader, they started working with the captain, they got to someplace safe. They had to decide to stop working toward what they were doing, toward the ends of their leader. And that's when they found success, the right success. The question for you today is, what work are you pursuing? See, many of you, as we've said, have an extra day this week to stop and think about these things, to ask yourself the question, what are you laboring for? What is the point of your work? Now look over your life the past week, past year, past decade, and ask yourself, what has been the purpose of all your work? What is your ambition? Are you building what God is building? Or are you exhausting yourself building your own Tower of Babel? So I've got to say, if you are not building what God is building, your life's work, it's in vain. It's just going to be nothing when you pass through this place. That's what it is. You know, we're left Solomon with a promise in verse 2 of Psalm 127. He says that God grants sleep to those he loves. He's talking about the righteous, those saved by Jesus Christ, loved by God. We get sleep, we get rest, we get peace in our work because it's God's work. This Labor Day, decide what you are working toward and whether it will last. last. Let us pray.